How to handle misinterpretation and be understood clearly. Most people think they're being misunderstood, when in reality, they're being misinterpreted. And that changes how you need to respond. Because when someone misinterprets what you say, it's not always manipulation. It's not always intentional, and it's not always their fault. Sometimes it's a clarity problem. And more often than people realize, it comes down to the words you choose and how you deliver them. And if you handle those the same way, you'll keep getting the same result. By the end of this video, you'll know how to reduce misinterpretation, communicate with more precision, and make sure what you say is understood the way you intended. Here's what's actually happening in these moments. When you speak, people don't hear your intention. They interpret your words. And if your wording is too broad, too vague, or open to interpretation, they'll fill in the gaps themselves based on their assumptions, their experiences, their expectations. And now the message has changed, even though you said exactly what you meant. And the more vague your wording is, the more room you leave for that to happen. Because vague language forces people to interpret what you might have meant, instead of understanding what you actually meant. And this is where intonation starts to matter, because people don't just interpret your words, they interpret how you say them. If your tone doesn't match your intent, they won't trust the words. They'll interpret the intonation instead. And when that happens, your message gets replaced by their perception of it. This is where something most people overlook starts to matter: your vocabulary. Not to sound smarter, although it does help, but to be more precise. Because when your words are too general, too loose, or open-ended, people will define them for you. And once they do, you're no longer in control of the meaning. But when your language is precise, you define the meaning. For example, instead of saying, "I don't like how this is going," you might say, "I think this approach is inefficient." Or instead of, "That doesn't feel right," you might say, "I don't think this aligns with the goal." Or instead of something vague like, "This seems kind of unfair," you might say, "This feels inconsistent with the expectations that were set." Or even more directly, "That approach feels counterproductive." Same idea, harder to get wrong. The right word doesn't just sound better, it gets understood correctly. And if you want to get better at this, I've got a full playlist on this channel breaking down powerful words and how they're actually used in real conversations, so you can communicate more clearly and avoid being misinterpreted. You can check that out after this. So here's the shift. You stop assuming people understand what you meant, and you start making your meaning harder to get wrong. Because clarity isn't about saying more, it's about removing the room for interpretation. When someone misinterprets what you said, you don't shut it down, you clean it up. Step 1, clarify. Don't defend. The moment you feel the urge to correct them, pause. That's the signal. Don't jump into defense mode. That turns confusion into conflict. Instead, you clarify. And just as important, you keep your tone neutral. You're not pushing back, you're resetting the meaning. Instead of saying, "That's not what I said," you say, "Let me clarify what I meant." Step 2, tighten the language. Now you restate your point, but more precisely. This is where most people overdo it. They explain too much. You don't. You tighten it. One sentence, no extras. In real time, it sounds like this: "What I meant was this." And you say it clearly. No rambling, no filler, just better wording. Step 3, check alignment. This is a step most people skip. You don't assume they understood, you confirm it. Does that make sense? Or is that how you understood it? Now you're not guessing anymore, you're aligning. And once you're aligned, the misinterpretation doesn't have room to continue. And this is what it looks like in real time. Someone says, "So you're saying this isn't important?" Now most people react, "No, that's not what I meant." And now you're explaining, which only creates more room for misinterpretation. But a controlled response sounds like this: "Let me clarify what I meant." Pause. "What I meant was that this needs to be prioritized differently." Then, does that make sense? Now the conversation has been reset, not defended. You didn't argue, you clarified and aligned. Because you're not reacting, you're refining. You're removing ambiguity in real time. And when there's less ambiguity, there's less room for misinterpretation. And when there's less room for interpretation, people stop filling in the meaning for you and start hearing what you actually said. Most people think communication breaks down because people aren't listening, but a lot of the time it's because what was said left too much room for interpretation. And the more precise your words become, the less often that happens. That's why building your vocabulary isn't about sounding smarter. It's about being understood the way you intended. So if you want to start building that skill, I've put together a full playlist on this channel breaking down powerful words and how they're actually used in real conversations so you can communicate more clearly and avoid being misinterpreted. Start with this first video in that playlist and I'll walk you through it step by step. I'll see you there.